So, do you want some soothing or amusing knitting companions? Well, that's what we are going to be talking about today, as I am going to tell you who I have been knitting with thus far and since we last talked about that. So hello everyone. Welcome back to my very small place on the internet where I talk about my knitting life, my knitting adventures, and about some fibers from time to time. My name is Isabelle. I am in Normandy, and today it's going to be a video about. I made one not so long ago about who I am knitting with, and I really do need some soothing or amusing companions while I am knitting because I cannot default to the news or the usual shows or things like that. And I have been listening to a lot of music. I'm not going to be talking about all of it because some of the CDs I got are not here yet. So I will save that for next time. So there is music and a show, a podcast, a real podcast, an audio podcast. And at the end of the video, and if you're not interested into that, you can just skip that part. I always have chapters on the videos, so you can skip ahead or stop whenever what I'm going to be talking about is of no interest to you. I will make a little life update, one that is not very easy. My mother is fine, so it's about me, you may guess, because I went to see my surgeon last week. So you may anticipate what I'm going to be talking about. But anyway, a little bit of life update at the end of the video. So if that is of any interest to you, please stay tuned. Yes, who I have been knitting with. But before that, as we are a show and a YouTube channel about knitting, I'm first going to be talking about what I am wearing. I am wearing L'Inséparable Yvette, which is a little vest, a free pattern that is in French. And I liked very much the shoulders because you have some kind, I'm not sure how you call that, of a saddle shoulder or compound raglan. At first you increase only for the front and the back. You leave the shoulders flat. And this type of shoulder construction I like a lot, and I've been making a sweater and I probably will be making some more for this summer. So the part of the shoulder is flat up to the moment you reach the tip of your shoulders. And then, of course, not for the vest, but for a raglan sweater, you increase rapidly on both the front and the back and the sleeves. So that makes a line that follows, in my opinion, the shoulders and the armholes much better than the plain raglan that is just two triangles. Anyway, L'Inséparable Yvette, I had a bit of problems with that pattern, but I may knit it again, once again, for this summer. So this is quite of a deep V neck opening, and I may make a square one because I've been seeing a lot of square neck openings lately, and I don't have any really that is that square. So I may make a square one or just a round one. And the yarn that I used is some yarn that is from the center of France by Terroir Laine. And this little marbled effect is done in the skin. So they ply two colorways. So they have a very light, which is almost white, a medium and a deeper brown, because these are just undyed yarns. And I think this one is the light and the medium one. And I like the marling effect that is much better looking to me, in my opinion, than when you hold two yarns together, because sometimes, depending on how the yarn presents themselves, when you knit them, you can have some kind of patches where it's always the same color. It's just random, so it can happen. When you knit a yarn that is already plied together with two different yarns, you don't have that. It's a much more homogeneous marling effect, and I really, really love the effect. And if at some point one day I may go to a festival or something where they are, I will get some more of their yarn because it's very dry. Of course, it's rustic, untreated yarn. It's really light and warm, and I would be much interested into the other colors they have. And I'm wearing it with my own little trendy little scarf. The second one I made with just one strand of Holzgarn tied. Tied is 70% wool and 30% silk. And this one is quite fine, and I'm not sure I recall which kind of needles I used. Not 4 millimeters for the second one. I may not have even written that down. But anyway, with just one strand, the first one was much thicker because I was using 2 strands of ties. And once again, I have seen, as I just said, a lot of square necklines. I also have seen a lot of little ascots, I would say, so little scarves, skinny little scarves with lots of colors that people wear as a tie. So I did use mine as a tie. It's a bit longer. The little motif is underneath, of course. And I'm wearing it as a tie with just my jacket. It was a perfect outfit this morning to go working at the university. Quite a bit of a British vibe with my French way of seeing things. And this shirt is a cotton shirt from Saint-James or Saint James, you may say, which is a Normandy company. I will also link them down below. I love what they make very much. It's good quality type of products of garments, and they have also hats and coats and stuff like that. And it's more on the coastal marine type of garments. They have a lot of marine sweaters, the striped ones, and which have a very fixed number and position of the stripes. Of course, you can do whatever you want, and I did whatever I wanted when I did knit the striped one last year. But they are very famous. There are several companies like that in France, and they are one of them, and their products are very high quality. So there you have it. This is how I was dressed this morning when I went to work. The weather is a bit warmer and there is a lot of sunshine. We have had a lot of sun for the past week, I would say. We are on a Monday. And spring is in the air. And just as an aside, before we dive into who I am knitting with, I had said that I was going to knit winter garments this summer because this is most of what my stash is made of. With the warmer temperatures, I did assess which kind of summer yarn I have or I had left. I have enough to make some kind of a scrappy, stripy cotton t-shirt, I guess just enough for a t-shirt, of several colors that I'm not sure they go together well, but I have to imagine the stripes and everything. And I was thinking, I'm going to be just making that one. There is a new yarn shop that did open last week in my area. So I did get some summer yarn to knit some t-shirts or short-sleeved sweaters because I don't have anything like that in my stash. Well, spring has come. at least for now, and my mind has completely switched from I will knit from my stash and not buy anything to I have looked in my stash. I don't have any of these summer and lighter yarns. Let me get some for this summer. That's the way it is, my friends. That's the way it is. Okay, who I have been knitting with thus far. I have been listening to a lot of music, and this was a way for me not to get hooked to the news too much, because the news are very stressful to me. I'm very worried about the way the world is shaping right now, what will happen next, how the world economy is going to be bouncing off the very dark space we are in right now. Hopefully not with a war. Hopefully not with a war. And I've been very, very worried, very stressed out. So I've been trying to follow the news just a little bit, just to know what's happening, what's on top of, to be on top of the things, but not more than that. So I have been listening to more music and more podcasts, audio podcasts, than before, because as I'm reducing the time I spend online for news, the usual time I would be spending, I have more time for that. So we are going to be starting with the podcast. It's an Apple podcast. Let me retrieve it. It's an Apple podcast, and it's called Scam Town. I will link it down below. And one of the episodes is called Knit to Death. And I was thinking, is that knitting as in the knitting we are doing, or is that something else? And it is the knitting we are doing. And you may recall, and there are people who've made commentary videos on YouTube. I will maybe link in the moment, or Aspen in the moment, who's talked about the mystical creation yarn drama. To make it short, it's an indie dyer that faked her death and used, people, good feeling for her and kindness and stuff like that, and it was a very bad story. Anyway, they have an audio episode on that event and what happened in the yarny community, because in the fiber community, because if we include yarn and crochet and any other kind of fiber craft, it's full of drama story. I'm not much into drama story. This one is so big that it did get to me without me looking for it at the moment. And I did listen to the video thinking, what's that about? I mean, it was a sad story, but in a way it was a bit of entertaining how I spend in the moment. I think that's what their channel is called now. How they described it, and it was kind of an entertainment. So okay, I took it. When I saw that in Scam Town there was one episode like that, this is the first one I listened to, even though it's not the first one in the series. And it was very good. They had a way to tell the stories. Very good. So I said, okay, let me listen to the other ones. So I've listened to the whole series back to back whenever I was sitting and knitting, which I don't have much time to sit and knit for now because it's midterms. So I have a lot of exams, a lot of grading, a lot of classes and stuff like that. Many students to take care of and answer and stuff like that. So I don't have much time to knit. But anyway, when I started to listen to the first episode, I did listen to all of the other ones. Maybe there are 8 or 9 or 10. And back to back. when I was sitting and knitting, or sometimes when I was commuting to work. And I really like the way they talk. They tell the story, and all of these stories are true stories. Some of them are just incredible. I mean, one is about some official hackers, we would say, people who are hired and paid for to try to see what the security is of some public institutions or buildings or stuff like that, and how they got arrested and how their story evolved. And it's still, at least at the time where they're recorded, it's still not settled many years after. um, there, if you liked it, and I know some of you did listen to my previous Apple podcast recommendations and you liked it, please listen to that one. It's funny, even though the stories are not always very funny, but they tell the story in a very entertaining way. True story, it's not really true crime because there are not, some of them are, but there are no crimes involved. It's more stories of scams. And I did enjoy that a lot. Let me check how many episodes there are, because there are quite a few of them. So there are 11 episodes. There are between 45 minutes, less than an hour. It's quality time. I assure you, it's a quality listening time. It's very funny. Maybe they do push their shows elsewhere. I'm not sure. But at least if you do have Apple Podcast, please listen to that. It's really funny, and some of them are quite incredible. Okay, music. So first, no surprise to you, the first cassettes I bought, I was 13 years old. At one of the first Christmas, I did get some money instead of a present. I did buy 2 cassettes by Pink Floyd. I've always been listening to Pink Floyd. I have one day or 1 year they issued the whole collection. There are 17 CDs in there, but not the public albums, for example. But so I have the whole collection. I have that, and I'm listening to Pink Floyd all the time. It's my favorite group, if I may say so, even though I have many others that I love. I do default a lot to Pink Floyd when I'm thinking, I'm not sure what I want to be listening to. Anyway, and in Pink Floyd, I like, and I guess it can be some kind of a controversial comment, I like David Gilmour. I know some people prefer other ones or other type of sound. I like his sound. I like his way of playing. I like the sound of his voice. I like the music he creates, the rhythm he plays and everything, more than when other members of the group had created music. And he released a CD not long ago. It's in 2024. It's called Luck and Strange. Luck and Strange, typical Gilmour music. No surprise. Absolutely no surprise. The same type of music, the same type of sound, the same sound of his guitar, the same sound of his voice. No surprise. And I do listen to that on rotation right now. In the morning, in the Sunday morning, for example, and I cycle. For now, I'm listening to this album a lot in the mornings and in the Sunday morning. And I listen to some. The first album I listen to is Air, one of them. And in particular, Moon Safari. About that album, my last son, who was there for a weekend not long ago for their birthday, he said he has a recurring joke with his brothers and his friends, saying that every time he comes home, he listens to, I play this album at least once during his stay, And he was there for only a night and the next Sunday morning because he was, or an afternoon, he was leaving at 6 p.m. And in the morning, I did play the album and he said, okay, I have to tell you, it's so funny. Every time I come home, you listen to that album. And I do listen to that album very often. And for now, I'm listening to Lock and Strange by David Gilmour, which is his last release. Very, very similar to what he's been doing so far. So if you don't like David Gilmour, you can just skip that. Let's just say it that way. Okay, next, an oldie and a goodie. I discovered their 25th anniversary album not long ago, but they released it sometime in 2019 or something. I missed them when they came to my area last year because I was suffering too much from my hip and I could not go to the show. It's archive. If you just want one, buy the 25th anniversary one. I have several other ones here. I could not retrieve the other ones. They are somewhere. And I really like what they are doing. They are really one of a kind, and I like their sound a lot. And they do venture into rock, into electronica, into very, very one of a kind, their own kind of music. And I love what they are doing. And I listen to them quite a lot. And I have to say that I mostly listen to them when I'm hiking at the beach, because it's a bit less mellow and dreamy than David Gilmour. So I do listen. It's one of the albums I listen a lot to when I'm walking at the beach. And I like the association of the fresh air and the darker type of music that they are playing. There is kind of a discrepancy between what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling. And in a way, if I have, I'm in a dark mood or bad mood, or I'm sad or I'm stressed or something, listening to them at the beach, in the fresh air, in the open air, with other people walking by and stuff, usually changes my mood. So I have this one, which is a bit older, it's 2020. And this one, I'm not sure, 2014. And I'm not sure this one has a name. Anyway, I will leave their details down below. One of a kind type of group, and one that I really enjoy about everything that they have produced so far. I'm not sure what's happening. There is something I want to cough out and it's not coming out. So anyway, so last time I did talk about Niels Fram, who is an electronica composer of kind of a drone music. Drone music is when you have one note that is held a long time and maybe you have some variations around. And I do enjoy Niels Fram a lot for that. And this was my youngest Christmas present, I think. The album I showed, Music for the Animals or something like that, or Music for Animals or something like that. Anyway, when we were talking about drone music, he said, do you know Eliane Radig? So this is the only album I have of her. She has made several, and I think this is the one I prefer. Trilogie de la Mort, the Death Trilogy. She is a French composer. She's 90 years old right now, I think, something like that. And she has been making music from the 70s or 60s or 70s or something. And this particular album is a bit more recent. I'm not sure when it's from. 1988. And this album she made, so it's a sad story, but the album is not sad. She made when she was at the same time working with some Tibetan people on the Book of the Death, or I'm not sure how it's called in English. I will write it down below. It's the French translation from the French title, so it may be different in English. So she was working on that with some Buddhism monks on that book. She was working on that. And at the time, the year before, 2 years before, 2 years before, her son died. It's a drama event. It's a really sad story. And she made that album at this moment. This is real drone music to me. You know, Niels Fram, you have that note that can be carried out for a very long time with other sounds around. Not that one, it's just one note, and sometimes you have some other sounds, most of the times you don't. So if you're not into very meditative music, if you get bored easily listening to music and you need some, rhythm and entertainment and things like that, it's not going to be for you. But if you want to venture into some very meditative music, when I think I bought it when we were talking with my son a couple months ago, when all the events were unraveling and we are still going from one incredible decision to another incredible decision. And I was very, very stressed out. And this album did help me calm down, in particular at night. So I would listen. So there are three CDs that are almost an hour long. 61:22 minutes, 56 minutes and 8 seconds, and 51 and 17 seconds minutes. And so that's 3 hours worth of music. I would listen to that album every night when I was knitting to calm me out and to be able to do what I'm telling you to do, to place joy and happiness into my knitting and into my stitches, and thinking about you or other people, and not only having all the stressful events circling out and keeping me very stressed out. And I have to say, it's very particular. If you're not into meditative music, or if you're not into meditation at all, because I think you can meditate with that music, just listen to something else, because you're gonna get very bored. But I have to say that I have played this album every night for a long time before I would come out of this extreme stress I was in. So I'm not saying that I'm not stressed any longer, because all of that is what's happening. We are on the 7th of April 2025. All what's happening with the tariffs and the taxes and the economy that is going down, the world economy that is going down, is very, very, very concerning to me. And this, I think I will listen to that album tonight, because I still have work to do tonight. I could have work to do tonight, but I think I will choose to knit because I haven't been knitting a lot. So, and I will listen to it tonight. So when you see this video, you will know that last Monday I did knit with Eliane Radi. So she has made a lot of other CDs and albums. There are interviews and things like that. I did listen to other of her albums. And I did not like them as much as I did like Trilogie de la Mort. So trilogy is three parts of something of a book or here of a piece. And I was very surprised. I did not know her. I did not know her. My youngest son made me listen to her. And I do enjoy a lot that type of music. And I have more of John Hopkins coming in. I've listened to the albums and I've bought the ones I could buy because not all of them are available on CDs. And I may talk about that next time around. But last time I wanted to talk about archive and I was so stressed out by other things that I did set them aside and I said, okay, I will talk about them next time. And today was the day. Okay, a bit of life update. As I said, I went to see my surgeon last week for 6 months post surgery for my hip total hip replacement that took place last September. And this hip is doing fine. And he said, so how is it going? What are the limits for your hip and stuff? And I said, I don't know what the limits are on my hip. I can't find the limits because my other hip is bothering me. And you may recall I had gone to see him on purpose for that second hip last December. And he had said, no, we don't do preventive surgery. If I had a very big crisis because, arthritis comes in cycle until it's steady. And I had a big crisis that prompted me to see him, but with a delay, the crisis was over and I was not in pain any longer. That's what he told me that. Last week I said, okay, I have pain all the time, but it's not the level of pain I was in with my previous hip, where I would walk for 5 steps and cry because I was hurting. No, it's a constant level of pain. It's not an overwhelming level of pain. It doesn't prevent me from sleeping. It does prevent me from sleeping in certain positions, but it doesn't prevent me from sleeping. I can walk an hour. If I go walk at the beach, I cannot go more than an hour because after that I do start to limp a lot, and I do limp right now. And I said, what is worrying me is that I start to have pain on my ankle. I had an accident on that ankle, but it's not perfect, but it was not hurting me any longer. I do not hurt from that ankle even after I had this accident and everything. But it started to hurt me. And he said, yes, if you are limping and if you are not putting your weight on your leg the normal way, because your hip is hurting you, you will start to have pain in your ankle. And I said, I start to have pain in my knee. All of this pain, as I said, is not overwhelming, is not, extremely invalidating, and it's preventing me from doing things. I have difficulties to put my socks on, for example, but it's not the way it was with the first hip. And I said, it's not going to be resolving all by itself. And he looked at the x-rays and stuff and he said, okay, when you are ready, I'm okay. And I said, okay, I don't want to think more about that and come back and still have the delay and stuff. So we made an appointment for next September. He could sneak me in July. Thing is, at the beginning of July, I'm working up to almost the end of July. And I said, I haven't seen my mother last year very often. I did go to see her at Christmas, but that's the only time. And she's expecting me this summer. She wants to see me this summer. So he said, okay, September. So I have the appointment and everything, and we are starting to do all of the process. He said, do you want to go back to the whole process as it was before? Because they have a patient school where you stay a whole day and everything. I said, yes, yes, put me back into the whole program because I was so stressed out last time. And even if I know what I'm going to, I think I will be very stressed out. And as a matter of fact, last night I could not sleep, even though I saw him several days ago. But I think I talked with one of my children last night on the phone, and we talked about that. And I think I did. I'm starting to realize, because when you take the decision and it's 5 months from now, you start kind of roll a dice and you don't see it fall down right now. But it all started to materialize and get very real. And there is something flying out in front of me. And I think that's what prevented me from sleeping last night. And I did go to sleep, but very, very late at night. So I will be back again into the same type of process. We'll see what happened. We'll see if I'm able to film videos for you when I'm away or not. Same thing, I see if I will be able to film video for this summer, because I want to go see my mother, and I may film videos beforehand or not. I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. For now, one thing is certain. I hope that once the second hip is done, I will be able to go walk again for at least half a day or a whole day, and go onto my hiking trips the way I was used to be doing. Go to my Nordic walk, the one with a stick. It's kind of a faster walk, and there is a special way to hold the sticks and stuff like that. I'm not sure. I will try to find the name. This is what we say in French. With the group I was going with, I did tell him I can't join the group again, even though they would accept me, in the middle of the year, because it's usually from September to July. And because I can't walk the 2.5 or 3 hours that the session is, and I miss that a lot. I miss the group a lot. We are still talking, but I miss the group a lot. So yes, I do hope. I'm not sure what's going to be happening, and I do hope that surgery on both hips will solve that, as well as it's solving the first hip 6 months down the road. I don't have pain any longer. Of course, he said, if you do some yoga or Pilates, there are some movements you should not be doing. You know the ones, and don't do them. And I said, yes, I won't do that. But for now, I did maybe do 3 or 4 yoga classes, and that was it. I had to stop because I'm too stiff. In a way, I don't have much pain for now, but I am very stiff in that second hip. And he said, yes, there is no limit. If you want to go back to running, go back to running. I can't, of course I can't. But if you want to go back to running, go back to running. There is no limit other than certain movements that we don't recommend you to do because it can pop the joint outside of its socket, and that's very painful, and that's not a good thing because they have to reopen and everything. But the scar is perfect. The rest of the thigh is perfect. The way I stand, the way I walk on that hip is perfect. Since the first minute I woke up, I had many problems, if you may remember, but I never had any pain in my hip after the moment they replaced it. So, and it's still true today. And if there was not the other hip that was bothering me and preventing me from walking, I think I would have gone back to my walking group and I would be able to walk along the beach for 2 hours, because there is one path that is about 2 hours, and I can't. And when I teach, that's what I said. When I teach the whole morning, and it happens from time to time, I teach the whole morning and I teach part of the afternoon. When this happens during the afternoon, I'm in real pain. So it's not going to disappear with a magical kiss. That's what I told him. You can't give me a magical kiss and it's all going to be disappearing. So we decided to go back to that. And I think it's like the first time around. The day I took the decision with him, I said I should not be thinking more about it, because if I do think more about it, I'm not, I'm going to be backing up and I'm not going to do it. So, as I am very pleased, 6 months down the road with my first hip replacement and all the bumps around the surgery and stuff like that have disappeared. I haven't forgotten them, but they have disappeared. I took the decision to go back to surgery. Okay, so that's gonna be it for today, my friends. I do hope that my music or my podcast recommendations will help you place joy and happiness into your stitches and will help you buffer what's happening in the world and not go into your own bubble for a little while, because if you do place joy and happiness into your stitches, you will create a soothing environment that will, at least for that period of time, soothe your soul and calm you down and move all of the stress away, or most of the stress away. It's not going to be making the stress disappear. Some of you may live in a more stressful environment than I'm living in, because I'm in France. I know some of you are in war areas. I know some of you are across the big pond and are suffering from what's happening in the US. So, yes, maybe play some music and knit away so that you can actively, for an hour or so, make room for some joy and happiness into your life, because it's not coming all by itself and we do need to work on it. And if you can't do it for yourself, do it for other people. I'm sure there are people you can think of and send them joy and happiness and send them some of your happy little stitches and do that for them, because in the process and in the meantime you will create some joy for yourself. So yes, that's gonna be it for today. I thank you a lot for being here with me. I'm waiting for your comments. I love reading your comments in the comment section down below, and I will see you next time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Top. Do you want some soothing or amusing raglan? At first, you increase only for the back and the front, and at first you increase on, and I'm wearing it with my little trendy little scarf, the second one I made for myself, with just one strand of, let me check, I already have forgotten which yarn I used. It's, don't get old. I have enough to make some kind of a stripy music, and he just released a CD. I mean, and he released the CD not long ago. It's